Ladies and gentlemen, Alliance. I am your host, Dirty. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this and I see Frankie's in the background. His haircut looks terrible. His microphone looks like he got it from Wish. I'm debating on if we could be able to hear him, but I'm going to try to bring him on because he's got such a cheap-looking mic. So let's see what happens here.
You're such a jerk.
Frankie, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Frankie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I don't hear you, Frankie.
Test your board.
I am. It's your microphone that you got from Wish there, Slick. Let's see.
How do you know? How did you just hear me?
Let's bring our guest in, Paul. Let's see. Paul, how are you, sir?
I am well. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. Paul, can you hear Frankie? Because I can't hear him.
I can hear him just fine.
Damn it.
Yeah,
You're
says jerk. That's the problem.
Damn it. So, Paul, introduce yourself for the people that are watching us tonight.
I'm Paul Reeths. I'm the owner of OurSportsCentral.com as well as StatsCrew.com. Also authored a book on the old United States Football League.
Oh, that's why you're on, because Frankie has such a massive wood when it comes to the old USFL. It's like he's obsessed with it. I think if the USFL, the old USFL was a woman, he would marry it. Just saying.
Listen, I worked hard on this show this week. Paul, we're going to talk about your book. I got a picture of your book. But I also got highlights of the old USFL. So if you mention a team, I'll have a highlight for it. Because, of course, we're fond of the old USFL. A lot of people are. And I'm hoping this new USFL succeeds with owners, new owners, and everything. So we can really have a competitive spring league. Because
yes.
To me, the USFL, it was something important. Something that, hey, it really wasn't given a chance, a fair chance, due to some shenanigans that were going on behind the scenes. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but when an idea fails, it's one thing, if it's given a chance. But when it's not given a chance and it fails, that's another thing. And I think the USFL was the latter. Would you agree, Paul?
So I would say that the USFL did have a chance. That at some level the USFL succeeded. But I do think that economic forces were against it from the very start. Frankly, I think it was a miracle. It lasted 3 complete seasons. You just have to look at the bottom line, and the bottom line, quite honestly, is the bottom line. It's $200 million of losses over 3 seasons. They made terrific inroads in 3 years, but the ownership, by and large, could not afford those types of losses, especially when it became clear that television wasn't going to pony up much more money for it.
But Paul, and I respect your thought process, and I do respect your opinion. But there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with you, especially the former owners, because all we hear about. See, I thought they overspent. That's the way I saw it. But I've been told by people on the inside, they've been on the show, where they didn't overspend. They had more money than God, for example. Yeah, there's some few owners that were struggling, but like the Michigan Panthers owner, Donald Trump, the Jacksonville Bulls owner, Bassett. There were plenty of owners that were willing to keep spending, but they decided to throw in the towel for whatever reason. Now, I hear very many versions. And Dirty, if we can bring up Paul's picture of his book so people can see it, because I uploaded it. And the thing is, Paul, I just felt like it really wasn't given a chance because of the fact that you had some owners behind the scenes who half of them wanted to stay in the spring, the other half, let's go against the NFL. I actually have a clip from Eddie, what's his name? Eddie Einhorn, who bought the Blitz, I believe, after the Blitz were not, they didn't field the team in 85, which I just the quote was so stupid and dumb what he said. I just think that's why I felt it was not given a chance, because you had a bunch of owners who wanted to go up against the NFL and hopefully force a merger. I believe it would have survived in the spring. You believe differently, correct?
So Einhorn, you have to remember, never fielded a team. Einhorn came
Correct.
in late. He was essentially speculating. He was never going to field the Chicago team in the spring, and I don't believe he had any real intention of competing against the Bears either. I think that he reserved the Chicago market, and if the lawsuit proved successful or if some kind of merger strategy proved successful, he was going to be in for a payday.
Okay. I would like to show that clip, which is the Eddie Einhorn clip. Give me 1 second. I'm looking at it right now. Where he, to me, and I have it right here. If I can show the clip, I want your opinion on what he said in this statement on a live. It was a game between, I think it was Philadelphia and someone else, and he was interviewed about it. And
you're going to go and play expensive football, which I call what they're playing now, instead of cheap football, which they started out to do. If you're going to play expensive football against another league that plays expensive football, well, you better get right on them and go after their dollar stream and not sit around in another season and play. If you're going to go after them, you got to go after them on their turf. No competing league has ever gone against another league out of season and affected anything.
Okay, so your opinion.
So he's alluding to exactly what I mentioned before, is that the TV networks would not pony up the money to make the league, to help the league remain competitive in the spring. They were losing tons of money, and the networks weren't going to step forward and give them much more in order to remain competitive.
Okay, but
so the whole idea of moving to the fall, if you consider that a serious idea, was that you have television networks who will spend on professional football in the fall, who will spend several times over what the USFL contract was worth. Of course, all those networks are spending it on NFL football. The theory being that if the USFL could get a chunk of that, they would either be successful or force a merger.
But how much in reality that would have, if they did move to the fall, in reality, would they have really hit pay dirt with the networks ponying up more money to the fall when already the NFL was already saturated with it?
Yeah, I don't think so. No.
Right.
I think that the bottom line is that they were in a very tough spot. They couldn't get enough money from the TV networks in the spring to remain competitive, and really they couldn't move to the fall and just get a network to bite either.
And this is your book, correct?
Right.
United States Football League 1982 to 86. What made you write the book?
So I love the league. I loved the league when it played, followed it extensively, followed its players, after the league folded, the ones who went to the NFL and other places. It was such a unique animal. It was the last competitor to any major league. We have not had another competitor against the NHL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, or the NFL since the USFL folded. So it was the last time we've seen this weird animal, a competitive major league.
Okay.
And it played football in the spring. So it was playing outside of the NFL season. So as a football fan, you didn't have to be distracted by the NFL. You didn't have to pick one or the other. You just got more than 20 extra weeks of great professional football. It was almost a year-round operation at that time. And what you have to remember, unlike every spring football effort that we've seen since then, the USFL was a major league. It competed directly with the NFL for players. Am I saying that means that if they had achieved parity with the NFL? No. They had only 3 years, but they had made tremendous inroads in getting there, and they were professional football in a major league because they competed directly with the NFL for players.
Okay, I believe that if they would have stayed in the spring, it would have survived. They had plenty of money. Just get rid of
the economics say differently. I mean, I would love to believe that as well. And guys like Taubman, who you mentioned, who owned the Michigan Panthers, Edward DeBartolo in Pittsburgh.
How about the Oakland Raiders owner?
Trump had no intention of doing it. And you didn't have 8 guys even who could do that.
Who did you interview? And give me 1 second as I bring it up so people can.
Hold on. So here's something I want to. So as we're talking and I'm listening to this, right? So I pull up the original XFL deal, right? So in '83, their deal was a 4-year deal with ESPN and ABC was the major, and the deal roughly for the first year was $13 million TV money in revenue in '83. Now, $13 million in '83 is not bad money, and then it went to $16 million in '84, and then it dropped in '85 and went down to $9 million, and then that was for ESPN, and then ABC opted for '85. In '85, they was at $14 million, and then in '86, $16 million. Now, that's a lot of money. Am I not? If I'm mistaken, that's a lot of money for that time of the frame. Am I right, Paul? That's a lot of money.
For an untried thing, it was, but compared to NFL money, and remember, the NFL is their competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the NFL had several times over in gate receipts.
Correct.
And the USFL knew it. The USFL knew they could not draw NFL numbers in the spring. So the NFL had an advantage there already. But the TV money, far and away, the NFL would blow them away on.
Right.
And when you're competing for the same player pool, you can't. You will become uncompetitive very quickly because
Correct.
you are losing tons of money. And at the end of those 3 years, they had lost $200 million.
See, that's a lot of money. Now, when the XFL or the USFL originally came, it only had 8 teams in the '83 season, right?
It had 12 teams in '83.
Or 12 teams. And then they automatically go right to expansion. Now, for me, I think, and you hear that now with the new USFL and the XFL, all these people are like, oh, I want expansion. Well, I mean, this is truly the only league that lasted. And it really, you could say it was a success, but at the same time, you could say it wasn't a success because, like you said, it lost $200 million over all of that time. I mean, that's a lot of money to be losing. And
right, and I'm glad you brought up expansion because a lot of people will point to that as one of the things that the USFL did wrong. They expanded to 18 teams, so they increased by 50% in year 2. The thing that you have to realize about expansion was that was the symptom of the problem, not a cause of the problem. So many of the original owners were underwater that they needed those expansion payments. So they all got a piece of that action. Those 16, actually 5 teams that the league sold off, and then there was one that was guaranteed to the founder, where they didn't get that money. But those 5 expansion teams that the league sold, they all got a piece of that, and some of them desperately needed that cash.
right, yeah. So I mean, you're talking needing the fresh capital. They expanded from the 12 teams to the 16 or to 18. It's just, $6 million. That's a lot of money, but that's only coming in once.
Yes. Yep.
That's it. So, I mean, I get it. And, like I said, this is truly the only league that even worked. And here's what I've noticed been doing all of this spring football stuff. And Frankie, you can vouch for me. And Paul, you wrote the book about it. All of these spring people that want spring football, all the people behind it, it seems like they're all corrupt. It seems like they got a plan and then they say they're going to execute it, and then they execute it, and then everything folds within not even a full year. I mean, is it me, or is that the way it comes off to the diehard football fan is that spring football is just it just got a lot of corrupt people in it.
Paul and Dirty, let me apologize. I'm trying to help Mr. Foster. So if you allow me, I'll be back.
Well, I'm getting rid of you. Then you're already irritating me. Then there you go, Paul. I'm getting rid of him.
Okay, so I'd like to address. I wouldn't use the word corrupt. I'd say that all the plans, to one degree or another, have been flawed.
Right.
And I think I see where the USFL was coming from. I mean, you had quality offensive linemen who were making $40,000-$50,000 in the NFL at the time.
Correct.
So the economics were vastly different. The players, in reality, were probably very underpaid compared to what they could have been getting. So the USFL saw an opportunity there. The one thing that you have to take into account is that player salaries will inflate and inflate quickly. And during the USFL years, they were inflating by about 20% a year. That started the moment the USFL announced its existence. So, that's the fatal part of that plan. The fatal part of the XFL plan was probably being on primetime network television at a time when Monday Night Football's ratings were dropping. So you see all these different holes. The pandemic was a hole in another plan. I mean, it really runs the gamut. NFL Europe, super expensive to be shipping players back and forth, and you had half the NFL ownership that wasn't really behind it. Hagley was talking into it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say corrupt. I would say that the plans were all flawed.
But I mean, you see what I say. I mean, I know it's not corrupt, but you see what I mean when I say it just looks corrupt, because they all have this stuff, and then it just never materializes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got Jose on here saying that he's glad that the new XFL is expanding to Orlando. They're not expanding to Orlando. They're just taking a team out of New York and putting them in, or they're taking the team out of Tampa and putting them in Orlando. They're not expanding. They're not adding another team. They're just moving a team. That there's a difference between expanding and moving a team.
Right.
All right.
And, the heartening thing to me, as somebody who does like to see more football, is that more and more money is trying this. All of a sudden, we have Vince McMahon trying it again. We have
He tried it, then COVID hit him, and then he lied that he had $500 million when he really didn't. Now he's being sued by his own WWE shareholders because he used WWE money to fund it. And I said it on I do a show on Wednesdays called the XFL STL Talk Show. And I said it on one of those shows that the XFL failed. It failed. It failed because everybody's like, well, no. It was because of Corona. And I go, I get that. But did Vince McMahon file bankruptcy? And they're like, well, yeah. I said, so right then and there, that means it failed because he filed bankruptcy. Am I wrong?
I think COVID killed it. Does that mean it failed? I guess, yeah.
But I mean, you filed bankruptcy. If you said you had the money and you filed bankruptcy, that means you failed, right?
If that's what you want to hear, I mean, it had played 5 weeks. I think it had begun to gain a little bit of traction, and then it was dead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know it was. It was gaining traction in St. Louis for sure. I know that St. Louis and Seattle just alone were the two teams that had helped the league, that was going to make the league turn a profit or, break even for the first year.
I would be shocked by that, but I think that it was enough to probably go a second year.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, I know that they said if they could break even on the 120 that they had allocated for the first year, because I mean, I know that the Battlehawks pulled $25 million in those first 5 games. Seattle did roughly right around 20. So you figure another 5 games plus playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that there were some positive signs with the XFL, and it's unfortunate that the timing worked out the way that it did.
Right. Now let's get back to the original USFL. I mean, other than I mean, they were drawing at almost every team 25,000 fans per game.
They were averaging about 25,000 as a league. Some teams more, some teams less. Right.
But that's not bad for being a spring league, just being a startup league, and that's what you're doing. I mean,
right, and it was a forerunner. I mean, we've seen a lot of spring leagues since then, but this was a new concept, especially on a professional level. So, football in the spring was not just, oh, yeah, that again? It was, wait, what?
What is this? Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know Frankie because, Frankie's he's got the USFL Forever Facebook page or a YouTube page and Facebook page. I mean, let's just really look at some of the guys that they had. I mean, they had Reggie White, Jim Kelly, Herschel Walker,
Steve Young.
Yeah. You're talking Hall of Fame guys, And I mean, but like here, prime example. I mean, they signed Steve Young to a $40 million guaranteed contract. You're a startup league. How are you going to do that?
Well, it was an annuity, so it wasn't a traditional contract. But absolutely, they were spending a lot of money on talent.
Yeah,
your point holds that they were spending a lot of money on talent. It's funny that Steve Young tells a story of, he had a horrible game in Denver. He went back to pass. Oh, I should do it with my left hand. He went back to pass once, and the ball slid out of his hand. People in Denver were, "You suck, Steve Young," and his parents were there. And, they're like, "You suck, Steve Young, $40 million down the drain."
Right,
and
yeah.
Mom started screaming at these guys, "It's an annuity. It's an annuity."
Right.
Like, oh, Mom, you're not going to care.
Well, and plus, the guy was Frankie's back. I think. Did you get it all taken care of, Frankie?
No, he's hasn't responded, and I sent him the link as he requested. But
okay,
I'm trying my best, guys.
But Steve Young, devout Mormon, and then here's he's got a bunch of fans yelling he sucks. So I mean, I could see how the mom would get a little mad. You know what I mean?
I got a question, Paul. Let me once again let me show the book. This is the book that you wrote, the United States Football League, 1982 to 1986. Who did you interview for this book, and did you get cooperation from the people that you wanted to interview for the book? Who turned you down? How'd you choose the cover? See Jim Kelly. It looks like they're playing the Generals. If you could tell us some backstory on the book.
Sure. Interviewed a ton of guys, including the Hall of Famers like Marv Levy and Jim Kelly, down to regular Joey Jones level player, wide receiver with the Birmingham Stallions, kind of a local boy makes good story. Was very lucky early on that I connected with Steve Erhart, who was essentially the second in command of the league from shortly after it formed, and was involved kind of in kind of representing coaches even before, and was heard some of the very early rumblings of the league. And he was involved actually then as a partial owner later in the league's life of the Memphis Showboats and GM there, and served as the last chair of the owners committee. So took care of winding up a lot of the league's business. So a guy who spanned the length of the league, knew essentially everybody. And so I connected with him, and he was just so glad to hear that there was a serious effort being made, to chronicle the league's history. So that I can't give enough thanks to Steve for his help in looking over the book and in just providing clarity at different times and contacts as well.
And what about the Donald?
What about 45? Yeah, did 45? Did you get 45 to talk?
Donald Trump, I did not get to talk to. No, he's a tough one.
Yeah, Paul.
Getting past his people, and I had somebody who made the point is, a lot of guys just don't like to talk about failures, and that's the way he sees it.
No, he's definitely one of them.
and I did talk to some fairly substantial people, including Al Taubman, Miles Tannenbaum. Some of the ownership that was well-heeled. I mean, Taubman at the time of the USFL made Trump look like a pauper. I mean, Taubman was one of the richest guys out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was invaluable to gain that perspective as well. I didn't just want it to be from one perspective. There are some pro-fall voices, some anti-fall voices, some pro-Trump guys, some anti-Trump guys. And, one thing that I should mention is that the bulk of this was completed except for some final editing before any political stuff was on the horizon. So this is not a thumbs up or thumbs down type of, this political thing. This is just about the USFL.
So now when you say it's just about the USFL, I mean, again, I'll go back to Frankie because, as I'm scrolling through all of our pictures to find everything, I can't find it because he's got so much stuff in there, which is great. I mean, video after video after video of football, the style of USFL. Now, as a guy who wrote the book and stuff like that, like, what is your takeaway from it? I mean, do you still think it holds that place in history like Frankie does there? Or, I mean, do you think it's more of like an afterthought for some people now that are as, we're talking almost 40 years removed from the USFL? Do you still see it?
I think that it's been successfully marginalized by people who had reasons to do so, and that's squarely on the NFL. But I absolutely do feel that it is more than just a footnote, simply because we have not had another competing major league in any sport whatsoever, much less the most expensive and toughest one to do, since the USFL folded. It was the last in the line of the ABAs and the WHAs and the AFLs, things that used to happen every once in a while, and things that had some level of success. The USFL was the last one to actually compete with the major league for players. And I still can't get over the fact that it completed 3 complete seasons and did so with, as you mentioned, Hall of Fame level talent, Pro Bowl level talent after that. We haven't even talked about, guys like Anthony Carter, a guy who could go into an NFL playoff game and single-handedly destroy a team. Mm-hmm. You had this quality of talent all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, and some of the stuff that it did, where it was the first to do that whole 2-minute warning thing. That once the 2-minute warning came, once they made the first down, the ball was stopped until the ball was placed and all that. Now, but the NFL. So, I mean, it changed a lot of the rules. It took some of the hybrid college rules into it.
And replay.
Yeah.
Replay came out of the USFL in '85.
Right, came out of there.
Now it's an afterthought.
Right, yeah, right. Now it's an afterthought. Now, if you watch the new USFL, you got Mike Pereiro looking at 17 monitors and 17,000 cameras going, oh, well, here. You know what I mean? Here's my thing with the USFL, because I'm 46. So by that time, I'm 8, 9 years old, right? My dad would watch it. But at that time, in the late 80s, football was just starting to become America's pastime, but it was baseball at that time was America's pastime. So when it was in the spring competing with baseball, I mean, do you still think people were still gravitating more towards baseball than they were football for the spring because of that?
Well, the USFL got really decent ratings. They hit their projections. Mm-hmm. And especially that first week, they just did monster numbers.
Right, yeah.
But even at the end of the season, with what we've become accustomed to is falling ratings throughout the season. Mm-hmm. As the weather warms up, it's harder to get people in front of the TVs. They still hit their projections. ESPN was so enamored of the league that it ended up trying to get them to come back for a $70 million deal, and they didn't care what season it played in.
Right, exactly.
So it was ESPN's, premier product at the time. They got better ratings on it than anything else.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but it's amazing how they ignore the history today. It's like they they don't even acknowledge the USFL existed in their network. And
Well, it's the $1 league. It's something you can laugh. It was worth $1, and that's exactly the spin that the NFL wanted to put on it. And those who earn their living writing about the NFL have absolutely no incentive to look at it any other way.
okay, but you're saying $70 million that they were willing to pay for the product. So what year are we talking about? After 83, 84, after 85?
So that would have picked up after 85.
So they
And
were
I
trying
think that was
to.
a full
They
4
were
or 5
trying
year deal.
to basically. What you're saying is they were trying to entice him to stay in the spring, even though they were $200 million in debt.
No, that contract would have held in the fall as well. There was no season stipulated with the ESPN deal.
Right,
With the
but how do you
renegotiated ESPN
move
deal, which
forward?
started in '86.
Okay, how do you move forward with the league that's $200 million in debt? Okay, you got a $7 million contract, but it's not $70 million for 1 year. It's spread out over several years. So
Yeah.
how
But
do
that is a big deal for cable rights at the time.
Right. So how do you, with $200 million debt, how do you move to the fall? That made no sense.
They also got ABC to pony up more money if they would have stayed in the spring, but it was nowhere near enough for them to remain competitive. Remember, this is a bottom line business. You are looking at your revenue and you are looking at your expenses. You could project what your expenses were going to be based on what they had been, plus, and I had mentioned this while you were gone, that there was a 20% per year increase in player salaries going on at the time, simply because players had leverage. They were able to talk to the USFL if their current team was not going to be able to give them an increase. A guy like Dan Fouts did this masterfully. He ended up getting a $1 million a year deal out of the Chargers only because of the existence of the USFL. He was going to sign with the Outlaws in the USFL, and that was the only way Klein was going to pay him that much money.
They're
But
going to pay him how much?
they were willing to pay him $1 million a year. So you just saw that, the beginning of that $1 million a year player. Herschel was in that group. So if Herschel's in that group, Dan Fouts, leader of the Chargers, one of the NFL's most explosive offenses, he was going to be able to pull it down, or he should have been. But the only way he could do it is by threatening to go to the USFL.
But Doug Flutie was in that group too.
Yeah, but Doug Flutie was very well paid.
Right, but at the end he didn't get all his money.
I would bet that Flutie got everything that he was owed.
And quick question, the merger between Houston and New Jersey. I talked to a former player from Houston. He's claiming Argovitz never got paid from Donald Trump when they merged. It was a contingent deal.
So there was money that Arkovitz didn't pay out, in particular to Jim Kelly, from what I understand.
Okay.
So
what was the deal between him and Trump when the merger happened? Did he get any money?
I would have no inside knowledge on that.
Hey, listen, let's be careful and talking smack on 45, because that bastard would come and give us a cease and desist and try to sue us because he don't
Nobody
like
cares about 45.
he don't like negative. Hey, he doesn't like negative press. He'll come and sue you. So
You can sue me. I got nothing.
Paul's one to make some more money on his book. We don't want him to take Paul's money. But so as you guys are sitting here talking, so I'm kind of just going over the history of the USFL. So here's what I'm seeing kind of around the 84 and 85 season, that the Los Angeles Express owners, Odenberg, stopped paying the team's bills late in the season after a media, again, Paul, this is where I'm going to go back to the corruption, the spring football, okay? So ready, hear this one out. So Oldenburg stopped paying the team's bills late in the season after media and federal investigations that he had lied about his net worth, and the IRS was coming to cash in some of his debts that he owed and had no money for it.
Oh, Oldenburg was a character. He had essentially faked this whole empire, and I was told by Bill McSherry, who took Steve Erhart's place in the lead hierarchy when Steve left to join the Memphis Showboats. I was told by Bill McSherry that Trump knew it right away. Trump's like, this guy is not real money.
Yeah.
I mean, he had enough circles and connections where he knew that this Oldenburg was fake, and that he had bought a bank. Then the bank had bought a bunch of Oldenburg's land for a highly inflated price, and that's where most Oldenburg money had come from. So it was all a pyramid, and when it came unraveled, Oldenburg was exposed as a fraud. The Express had no owner, and at that time, then Chicago already didn't have an owner.
Nope, that was the next person I was getting ready to go to.
So you had no ownership in the second and third largest markets in the country, and a television contract with ABC that required that you had X number of teams in the largest markets, and you had to have them in New York, Chicago, and LA. So you had real problems emerging at that point.
Okay, so you already beat me on that part because that was the next thing. So now we're going to go to like the 85 season where the Gamblers minority owner, how do you say his name? Jay
Rouillet?
Yeah, Rouillet agreed to buy the Express, but then pulled out in a short order during the training camp after it emerged that he had misled the league about his net worth. The league took control of the team and decided to run it on a shoestring under new owner who could be found. And then owners agreed to a 4-year CBA with the United States Football Player Association. And it really looked like in 85 is when the downfall, because then it was the Gunslingers owner stopped paying the team's bill about a month into the season. And then the Denver Gold, they weren't pulling anybody in Mile High, so they were moving their games out. ABC was wanting to, basically not put any games in there. Then the Stallions owner, Marvin Wagner, was forced to give up the control after his home state savings bank loan. He defrauded on that and lost his emergency line of credit of $900,000.
Yeah, so the Stallions situation was also very dire. The city of Birmingham ended up kicking in $1 million to help the team. So you have to remember in that 85 season, they were essentially playing a lame duck spring season. They had already announced a move to the fall.
Right.
So yeah, there were some before you saw some cracks in the foundation, you saw some walls of the foundation starting to collapse in 85. And yet somehow the league made it through the season. Which
is amazing. So then that's what I go back to. Is all of these people that want to have spring football, are they just all corrupt, or they just lose their mind because it's the springtime and they just don't know how to run a business in the spring, I guess?
I think let's start with that LA Express owner. You had the original owners in LA who wanted to get out because they saw the escalating salaries at that point. And so they sold to the guy, and sometimes when you only have one party step forward to make the purchase, you're willing to overlook a heck of a lot of things. Or, he had on paper what looked like a good operation. Various people will tell you about his office in San Francisco, which had a wall connected to the clapper or something that would come up. It was crazy for the time.
Right.
It was impressive. And so he put on a good enough dog and pony show, convinced them that he had the money, and he waltzed in there. But part of it was he didn't have any other takers.
Right, gotcha.
He needed a team in LA.
Yeah. So now let's talk about it. The book that you wrote. How long did it take you to write the book?
Honestly, it took me about 10 years.
Really?
It took me a very long time. I wanted to, and Frankie, this is where I really feel a lot of kindredship for your opinion, because when I went into it, I had this notion of this roaring success that was kind of stamped out right when it was beginning to catch on. But I think that, when you do get a glimpse behind the scenes, and when you talk about how big the losses were and how, there wasn't going to be a stopping point to that. The American Football League, they were losing tons of money in their early years. You had owners faltering. You had the Buffalo owner, for instance, who was trying to prop up Oakland at the time. In 1965, NBC stepped forward and said, we're going to pay you NFL money to keep your product going. And that was the turning point. That's when Tex Schramm of the Dallas Cowboys got on the phone and said, we need to merge with these guys. We got to figure something out. Because right now we're fighting for players and it's going to kill all of us. But the USFL had no substantial network TV money coming forward that would have given it that chance.
So here,
Okay.
you just made a good comment. It says, seems to me that I'm assuming he's saying the original USFL league office didn't vet the owners of the teams.
I think they actually did an awesome job. It's really, really hard. It's super hard. Jeff Bezos isn't knocking down anybody's doors to invest in this stuff. So you got to find guys who are willing to do this. You got to find them in cities that make sense. The founder of the USFL, Dave Dixon, he held off a year actually because he didn't quite have the mix together. And in particular, the large markets were a problem. They had to shuffle some guys around. An Oklahoma oil man who would have been a better fit in Chicago ended up owning New York. A heart surgeon from Phoenix ended up owning Chicago. They had to shuffle things around, but these guys were fairly substantial guys. They all were able to put up $1 million letter of credit. And one of the things we've mentioned is that the USFL lasted 3 complete seasons. Part of the reason they were able to do that was because these guys were substantial enough that they were able to underwrite some of the drowning teams.
Yeah. So now here, this is something I found out, and Frankie, this you should be tickled pink about, because this shows. No, I'm serious. This shows that the love that the old USFL had. So for their first game, their first championship game, which was July 17th of 1983, was the Panthers versus the Stars, which was a 24-22 game. The attendance at Mile High Stadium, 50,906.
Go back the week before to one of the semifinals in Detroit. It had 60,000.
Right. Well, and here's the messed up part. You ready for this? The TV rating, a 7.2. That's in July, in the middle of the summer. You know what I'm saying? A 7.2. Then for their 84 championship, which was Philadelphia versus the Arizona Wranglers, 52,000 for the championship game, 52,662 with a TV share rating of 6.1. And then the last championship game, which was the Baltimore Stars, 28 to the Oakland Invaders, 24 at Giant Stadium, was 49,263 with a TV share rating of 6. That's really good numbers back then, especially in the middle of summer. July is the middle of summer. We can all agree to that, right?
Yeah. And Jim Spence, who was the second in command at ABC Sports behind Roone Arledge, I did get a chance to talk with him, and kind of his grand plan with the USFL was to do more primetime stuff. As the league caught on, it was going to be shifted more to a primetime offering. And that's what ABC really saw as kind of the future there, and which is, to me, it's fascinating and shows that at some level ABC did have, an ongoing interest in the USFL, but it just had to stay in the spring, and it's just not possible.
So now let me get. Frankie, were you getting ready to say something?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought, and then I got to do something here.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You're talking now with the new USFL. Have you watched any of the new USFL games?
I have, yes.
What do you think of it so far? This is only 3 weeks of training camp. We're 4 weeks in. They're doing the hub city because of COVID. So let's take away the old fans, because Frankie will argue this with me, and I'll tell him he's a fool, because if it was in any other hub city, they're only going to go support the home city. So am I right? Am I right, Paul? They're only going to support the home city, right?
Yeah, I don't think this is a surprise what's happened in Birmingham.
Thank you.
That only the Stallions get any kind of crowd. It was always going to be a tough sell. I mean, you look at Fox's pricing on this: $10 for an adult ticket, and kids get in free. The gate is an afterthought. The people are props. The people are props for Fox's TV show. That's all they are.
But again, at the end of the day, I understand they're not going to
20
the other games.
20
My complaint was
5.
you have the home team doing very well. You have a 2-0 team versus a 2-0 team, and you don't even sell it out.
25,000. They have 25,000 there this weekend, Frankie.
That's not a sellout. It's supposed to be a sellout. That's
Frankie,
the way I saw it.
Frankie, this is where I'll hop on board with you a little bit, is that I think that an empty stadium affects the TV product.
Yes.
I agree with that.
But just before, I want to do a couple of things. First of all, for those of you watching, we're still waiting for Mr. Roy Foster, but we have Paul Reeths, who is the author of the United States Football League, 1982 to 1986. It's a great book. Go buy it. Paul, where can I find this book?
You can find it on Amazon or McFarland.com.
Oh, perfect. And now I want to show you, give me 1 second. I want to show you a quick highlight, and I want you to tell me, this is a team that seemed to be the most beloved team in the USFL, and there's a reason for it, but let me show this highlight real quick.
It's Tampa Bay having the ball on the 4-yard line. Actually, it's closer to the 3. RU is now in. So it's second down. They can get a first down just at the 1. Brodsky and Jackson, 2 wide receivers to the bottom of the picture. And Reeves rolls that way. Throws short on the goal line. Pass is complete. And it's a touchdown to Eric Truvillion. So just like that, boom, 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 they stick at the end zone. John Reeves on the money with all of his passes.
Okay. The reason I showed that highlight, what was it about Steve Spurrier, and if you can talk about John Bassett as well, because I believe he was one of the most important owners in the league. What was it about the Bandits? And I mean, you had Hollywood in there too. Tell us about the Bandits.
So the Bandits were owned by a guy named John Bassett. He had done this before. He had owned sports.
Correct.
Very rich Canadian family, dabbled in hockey, had owned the World Football League's Memphis Grizzlies.
Correct.
He was the guy with the most experience who joined the USFL originally. He knew what he was doing. And I think what set him apart is that he picked a great market where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were atrocious. And he also knew how to market. He put an exciting, fun product out there for fans who had to watch something quite a bit less for most of the time that the Buccaneers were there. So Steve Spurrier, young, imaginative, innovative, offensive coach, made things fun. A great interview. You had a veteran quarterback there, John Reeves. You had young Gary Anderson, NFL quality first round pick kind of guy. And then, they made their own stars like Eric Truvillion, who caught that touchdown pass. Just a super fun team. You could see a double reverse at any time. There was a story about Pepper Rogers of the Memphis Showboats kicked an onside kick against Spurrier. Spurrier was so dang mad about it. The very next kick for Tampa Bay was an onside kick, and they recovered it. He was just everything that you saw in college was kind of emerging, and he was kind of experimenting in the USFL, and it was a ton of fun to watch.
And now the two owners, well, obviously the two owners that, to me, the most bitter rivalry in the USFL was the Generals and the Bandits. And it's well documented that Bassett and 45, 30's favorite person, hated each other. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think once you get beyond some of the public stuff, they got along well enough, to do their league stuff. So it's kind of a good public rivalry. Certainly, probably polar opposite personalities and viewpoints on where the league should be headed. I don't think Bassett was actually opposed to an eventual merger with the NFL. He just was thinking more along the lines of a 5-6 year timeline. I think Trump was looking at his fellow owners and saying, we don't have 5 or 6 years. We're going to be underwater with a lot of public embarrassments before we ever get to that day. They're not going to want to merge with us. You know, I have tremendous respect for the job that John Bassett did in Tampa Bay. Just an exciting, fun product that he put out on the field.
It was fun. It was exciting. Bandit ball. Yes,
Yeah.
Spurs.
He used to do, yeah, run and shoot.
Listen. I mean, look, there's somebody on here that's a huge. He said it right here. He said, "Is Frankie being stupid again?" Because he's bashing the Birmingham because they sold 25,000 for that game. But here's what I'm going to say about the Tampa Bay Bandits. If Steve Spurrier was so good, now he wants to come on, Frankie. Now the idiot.
Bring him on.
Now, Paul, we got to bring this one idiot on here. I can't stand him. The dude's a moron. I don't like our fans, by the way, Paul.
They don't like you either.
They're all idiots. All of our fans are idiots, Paul. They're all morons. Just click this link and that'll put you on. But anyways, I don't understand what this whole infatuation with Steve Spurrier is. He's not a good coach. He's a terrible coach. The dude can't even win in the playoffs. If he was so good, why didn't he win in the playoffs?
He was a fantastic, fun coach to watch.
I
watched
agree.
some of those old Bandits games.
Terrible.
Versus, they were 3 deep at quarterback at different times because of injuries, and they were still a fun, competitive team all the time.
Paul, he's just a hater. That's
Terrible
all he is. He's just a hater.
Steve Spurrier.
Bandit ball was fun. Now, even though I'm a Generals fan.
I will let Steve Spurrier's record speak for itself.
Exactly. Even though I was a Generals fan, I rooted for the Bandits.
It's always about the body of work.
0-3 in the playoffs.
Don't pay attention to Paul. I do apologize for him. He's not on his meds today. That's what it is. But listen, for me, the USFL, and this is speaking from the heart, brought great memories. Okay, for me, I don't know what kind of memories. If the USFL would never exist again, if it never came back, and it was just no new USFL, no nothing, just it would still be on video, which you can find all the games on USFL Forever YouTube channel, by the way. The only man that actually uploaded and edited all those games. Everybody else copied it and stole it.
I'm going to mute his mic.
I need to do that disclaimer. But anyway, if the USFL was just in the past, what would be the biggest memory for you about the USFL? If someone were to ask you, how would you remember it?
I would remember it with all the fun football, with being in the middle of summer and it being hot outside and I'm watching football. I thought that was awesome. You just get done with an NFL season, and whether you liked how it went or didn't like how it went, we immediately went into another complete season with exciting offenses. It wasn't 32 teams running the West Coast offense. I mean, you had teams like Birmingham and Philadelphia who would run the ball down your throat and then beat you up on defense. Then you also had teams like Tampa and Houston who would run all kinds of crazy plays, and they could put 40 up on the board at any point, and they may or may not play defense that week. So you have this great disparity in play in the league.
And speaking of coaches, I got to show this clip, okay? Real quick.
Steve Spurrier, I'm stopping it.
No, it's not Steve Spurrier. Hold on. I want you to talk about this guy, because this guy is the one that I think people remember the most. But look at this.
Decided to jump offside and give Holmes a quick slap to the head. The old veterans get frustrated. Now the 4 wideouts again. 82 Wilfred Morgan is split to the near side with Walters. On 2nd and 18, Golston. He's got Walters, touchdown. Great catch. Great concentration to keep his feet in. Well, that's right back in your face, isn't it? Yep. So, Jerry Goldstein, 2 touchdown passes on 2 plays, right?
The reason I asked, I showed that Did you ever talk to Lee Corso? Because I
did.
think he was one of
bit-
those coaches that he wouldn't sit still. He can't sit still.
Every
I
bit
mean,
the character on the phone when I talked with him as he is in studio. Tremendous guy, just a lot of fun. He kind of embodied a little bit about, he didn't have just this great coaching record where he was an NFL assistant for 20 years or whatever. And I guess we got to give him a shot. He was a guy that USFL kind of took a chance on. I mean, he improved what was a very woeful team in Washington. And as head coach of the Orlando Renegades made them kind of fun to watch.
Oh, God. Here comes an idiot. I don't know if I want to bring him on. Hey, I'll say this. Lee Corso, a much better football mind than Steve Spurrier. Because he was on, the guy knows college football. He's on all the college football analyst shows. Corso, a much better mind than Steve Spurrier. And as I say that, I'm bringing an idiot on, Paul. So I'm going to apologize. This is another diehard spring football guy. Here comes this fool wearing his USFL gear.
Paul, Frankie, I want to apologize. How do y'all keep a straight face with his dumb ass talking?
I have no clue, my friend. I try my best, but sometimes he drives me crazy. I told him the other day, his wife is a saint. She should get.
She is. She's a great woman.
How on earth she puts up with him?
Let's introduce who we have. We have Bert here from, get the cigarette out of your mouth, from the Birmingham Stallions page, Paul. He is down there in Birmingham.
It's been 6 hours since I smoked. I'm doing pretty good, I thought.
There you go. He has the largest Birmingham fan page there. And I know, Paul, because I want to ask you, because I know you do got to get going here, so I do want to ask you one question about the USFL. Are you enjoying this new version of the USFL?
In a different way, yes. They're starting to get some cohesiveness on the field, and I fully expected it was going to be a little bit slow in coming. 3 weeks of training camp. None of these guys have really played together before. You can't expect, NFL where they're bringing back 3/4 of the roster every year, and you have some cohesiveness on the offensive line from guys who haven't played together before. Quarterbacks know where the receivers are going to be on every play. I think the quality of play has improved a little bit. It's funny for me watching a game like I watched the Michigan-Houston game, for instance, and just reminding myself that, Jim Kelly's not coming onto the field.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Bear's not coming onto the field. It's a whole different deal. But,
right, yeah.
But it's good quality football, though. I've been impressed. The games have been exciting.
Hold on, YouTube, be quiet. Paul's got to get going. So let's, Paul, plug your book one more time, where people could find your book and all that.
Hold up. Hold on, Paul. Let me do this because I want people to.
Okay. While you're doing that, let me just stick up for Birmingham for a second here. I know that its credibility was kind of questioned a little bit. That city has been burned maybe by more alt leagues than any other one. So I can understand where fans are a little bit hesitant to jump back into another one. But I think it's a great city. I think it's a great football supporting city. And especially if the USFL shows some staying power. If the Stallions are going to be the only game in town going forward, I think you'll have people jumping on board there.
Oh, they're definitely doing it.
Go ahead, plug the book.
Frankie, show the picture.
United States Football League, 1982 to 86. Easiest way to find it is on Amazon.com.
All right, Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I know that we took up more time than what you had. We had some problems with another guest. He's trying to figure out his computer. I don't think he was feeling very well. But again, thank you for joining us. Spending more time than what you were going to. I do appreciate it. You have an open door policy here on the Pro Football Alliance show anytime.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.
I'll get your book tonight, my friend.
Oh, God. Here we go.
You show it one more time. There you go.
I
United
will.
States Football League,
You know I will.
Amazon.com. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Reach it for the hug. Reach it for the hug. Ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen.
can I start this out, or you're going to be rude? Can me and Frankie make up? Frankie, I apologize to you.
I'm muting both of you clowns. Because this is my show, damn it. Here goes Frankie getting ready to have his meltdown. Ladies and gentlemen, I do have to say something to you. We have Frankie from the USFL Forever, and we have Bert from the Birmingham Stallions group. Last week, Frankie made some discouraging remarks about the city of Birmingham. Pissed Bert off. Then there became a Facebook war between the two of them. I might have had something to do with it, feeding the lines just a little, just to you know.
My mic is on now. Anyway,
To stir the pot. But so these two got into a fight, so I guess they want to kiss and make up. So I'm going to let Bert go first. Bert, you go first.
I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Oh, yes, I wanted to apologize to Frankie and thank Paul. Paul has got, he's centered. He's centered because I mentioned this to Jason, I guess it was a couple days ago. Birmingham sure has been burnt by spring football. And a lot of them, I've still had some of them in my Stallions group still mention the iron and how they don't know if they can, come back and they can't. And I told them, I said, come support your team, come support your city. This league has a 3-year plan, and they are serious about coming back. One thing I did want to mention, though, to Frankie, and it's very unfortunate. I've had a friend that is alum from different universities in the South that has mentioned attendance is a lot harder these days than what it was back in the mid-'80s because every game is on TV. That's why you have lackadaisical bowl attendance, not to mention you've got 50 bowls. But Frankie is correct. Back in the mid-'80s with USFL, attendance was fantastic. But unfortunately, not making excuses, we're living in different times. I should have posted that in 2001 with the XFL had a better attendance back then than they did in 2020, except for they had a lot bigger following in 2020. But, it's just different times now. It's tough to get someone, to get their butts out in the seat for 4 hours these days. It's just the attention span's not there with the younger crowd. I don't know what we've got to do, but I do know the fact that Birmingham has been burnt so many times in the past has played a part. The crowd was definitely better the other night. It's probably 22 to 25, I estimate. And I know Frankie wants it to be sold out, and I think that is a possibility, but you got to think it is year one of a brand new league, too. So I just wish he would be more open-minded to giving Birmingham a shot.
All right.
And it's tough to have fans come to 10 straight games. I'm going to be there, yes. Unless something, Lord willing, I will be at every game. But people have family events come up, and, I'm not making excuses. It's a different scenario with the USFL and it being a hub. It truly is.
All right, Frankie.
Again, to the city of Birmingham, I had a meltdown last show. To put it mildly, but the USFL means everything to me. It was part of my growing up, and when you see a big crowd in the first game, then you say, wow, 2-0 teams going at it, you expect sellout. You expect people to show up. I don't expect them to show up to other games. I understand it, but I expect Birmingham to say, you know what, we at least got to show up for the Stallions and sell it out. Because back in '85, the owner ran into trouble because his attendance wasn't that great in '85. And if you remember, they had a Save the Stallions night game against the Oakland Invaders. And a lot of people showed up because they said, hey, you're going to lose your Stallions. Going back to the AAF, the Birmingham Bowl. Now, in that case, I don't blame Birmingham. Because there were empty seats, just like it was in San Diego, just like it was in Utah, Salt Lake City. There were empty seats a lot with the AAF, but there were rumors that the AAF had no money, which had turned out to be true. So I can't blame Birmingham in that sense. Now, I think, Bert, would you agree? that if next year if Fox does a bubble thing again, that it's not going to work.
I think, they've been so good with their money. I would disagree. I think they need to get more than one team in the stadium next year. They need to have, in my opinion, 2 to 4 to show that they're trying to get away from the hub. And I think if they get, say if they get 4 teams, they get Birmingham, Michigan, Tampa, and Houston, those fan bases are going to build. I mean, they've got a 3-year plan, and I really do think they are pretty dead set on giving it a 3-year shot to and after that 3 years to see whether or not, they can make it work.
But part of that plan is to bring.
But I will tell you this real quick on the Birmingham Iron and the AAF, just to show you how aware the fans were of what was going on. I got my wife to go with me to the last game. I told her, I said, babe, we need to go to this game because this will be the last one that will ever be Birmingham Iron game. I mean, I knew it. So that shows you right there. It's tough to pack a stadium when you kind of know that the league is in big trouble.
Oh, I know the AF was that, and I wasn't surprised that.
So now here's what I'll say. Here's where, because the ratings had come out, and I'm glad that Bart's on here or whatever, right? So here it is, Frankie. You wanted it, you got it. Birmingham versus New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
1.4 million ratings. They did a 1 share in the demographic of 18 to 49. That's on a Saturday when people are out doing stuff. That's not a bad rating, right? Would we agree with that, right? And then there was roughly 20,000 plus in the stadium for that game because that was a loud game.
I'd say 22 on the low and 25 on the very high.
Right. I mean, unlike the first game, 17 paid, but with all the giveaways, it was closer to 35,000. Unlike some other shows that say it was only 17.5. But that's how I'll say it.
And the guy was in the suite with me that Saturday night, Frankie, and agreed with me it was probably 32 to 35. But then come Monday, he said, no, it was 17. It was 17. I'm like, how many beers did you have between Saturday night and Monday?
No, I listen, the north end zone and the south end zone, that's what I was looking at. When it first started, the north and the south end zones were kind of like half empty.
Man, it's a late arriving crowd, and yes. I don't know why.
Around halfway through the first quarter, you start filling up. And if you notice, the top tier was
about 60% of the upper deck was sold out. Yeah.
Right. So I said, yeah, all right. So they arrived late, not a problem. But this past weekend, I expected the same crowd because it was an undefeated team versus undefeated team, and that's why I expected. Now, listen, I'm all for next year Fox taking half the teams in their own cities and the other half in the bubble. If that's what they want to do, I'm okay. You just can't have 8 teams in one bubble again because people will lose interest. And I know for a fact they're looking for individual investors and owners. Apparently the number is 25. That's what I was reading somewhere, that they want 25 investors. 25 investors, which would be smart. But to me, nothing against the people of Birmingham. I'm just a USFL passionate man because I grew up with the league. It's not about, for all the people at Birmingham who saw the show last week, I had the meltdown. I was just frustrated with the fact that, hey, we've got spring football. And for dirty's sake, I hope the XFL comes back so we can kick their ass in the field in a few years when we have a USFL, XFL Universal Bowl championship.
Now, hold on.
I'm a huge XFL fan. I'm just a huge spring football fan. That's my thing, All
right, now, hold on. Let me ask you this because because I've talked to Bert, I've talked to you about it and stuff like that. Now, Frankie, now you tell me what you guys think, right? Here's how they should do this, right? And this is just my opinion. So you buy the ticket, you can go to all 4 games, right? So why not you get that first game, right? You have them get people there by having like players come out and meet the people in the parking lots, right? As like a tailgate party. And then in between the games, to keep people there in between the games, do like a big tailgate party. Have local acts there. Have players there. Have the mascots there doing stuff like that. Wouldn't you think that would be a way to keep people there in between games and before games, getting people there to go to all the games? Get interactive with the city. Send the teams out into the city of Birmingham. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I want to do a adopt a team program every week to where the Birmingham family, Birmingham City, adopts one of these road teams and goes and supports them that week. That's what I'm really wanting to push towards. And I sent an email to the USFL and Bruno Event Team and Protective Stadium today. I think it'd be a fantastic idea. We've got 7-8 weeks left. Not only support the Stallions, but go out of your way to support either New Orleans next week or Houston and try to fill those stands better and help support those players.
Now, Frankie, what would you think of that as an idea?
Anything that will bring them into the stadium, I'm all for, because, look, guys, if the quality was garbage, if the quality of football was no good, then we wouldn't be talking about this.
Now, we could all agree the first week,
It was rough.
There was 2 good games the first week, right? We can all agree with that. 2 games the first week that were good.
See, I'll say this: my brother absolutely loves to pick at me about spring football and hate on me about it. But I told you the conversation me and him had last weekend. He said they've got to try to get some of these teams out to their cities because he said, I'm not going to lie. He said, I know you're going to say I told you so, but he said the quality of football is there. He said he said it's entertaining, and he said I might tell you I'm watching something else, but he said if the USFL's on and I'm not at the stadium with you, he said I'm watching it.
I mean, look at him too.
So it's a good sign, because he's not a spring football fan, but I'm getting him there.
Well, Bert, I just want you to know I'm a spring football fan too from
He's lying.
USFL days. I also supported the first XFL. The only problem is obviously Vince McMahon and his nonsense with the wrestling. I did give the AAF a chance, but I knew it was on troubled legs when the fans didn't show up because of the fact that it was not promoted very well. It really wasn't. And then you were wondering, okay, does this league have legs? And I found out it didn't. I forgot the other spring. Oh, the World League of American Football, the NFL one, the original one. The first year was great.
NFL Europe.
When the NFL started bombarding with second and third string players the next year, I was tuned out. I didn't care for it. I saw these players in the fall. I don't want to see them in the spring.
All right, here. Now I got a question. For you guys because there's a certain website called XFL News Hub, right? And here I got something. So like Chris had meant something what you'd said, Frankie. Only quality, aka rich investors. He says that I'm assuming he's saying this is for the XFL, that it should be a bubble, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston, and then St. Louis and Memphis. Don't recall them going to Memphis. But here's what I do say. I really think they should have maybe done a second hub city for Birmingham. I think it might have helped a little, put them in a different city. I get why the Spring League did that, and it, but they didn't let people in. Now, here's the question I'm going to ask you guys. Minus all of your feelings aside, right?
Uh-huh.
If Kaepernick was in the USFL, would you guys watch that game?
Hell yeah.
All feelings aside, Bert, if Kaepernick was in that game, would you watch it?
I don't think you want me to repeat what I've got to say on your show, so I'm going to not say anything.
And then he's with the cigarette.
Here's what I said. I said, put the side.
I'm going to get a beer next, and I don't drink.
Listen, I said, all feelings aside, would you watch that game that Kaepernick was in?
I can't have my feelings aside because my feelings are on my sleeve, like Frankie probably figured out, just like his is. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're just we're emotional guys, and we're passionate about spring football.
Right. Here's what I say. I get why people would say, the heck with Kaepernick. I get it. But
I wouldn't want it. I would. All right, here's my answer. I would watch the game. I'm not going to say necessarily the reasons why, but I would be very, very, very fearful that in the long term it would hurt either the USFL or XFL, and for numerous reasons. Financial, especially. I really feel like it would. That's just my opinion. I feel like it would hurt the league.
I get what you're saying. I think if you could keep certain things in check, then I think that it would definitely bring eyes to it. Like Robert Griffin. I'm going to go back to Robert Griffin, who was just at the Run Rich Run charity event at the NFL draft. He ran a 4.4 draft or 40. Spring football, in my opinion, is built for guys like Robert Griffin, Kaepernick, Tebow, these guys that are these running type dynamic players, right? These dynamic players that in college they had these offenses built around them, where in the NFL they're already stuck in their way. You know what I'm saying? So you could get these guys would succeed in leagues like that. I mean, as much as I hate Johnny Money, Johnny Manziel, I would love to see Johnny in the USFL or the XFL. As much as I hate him, I'd love to see him in there because it would be the excitement of the type of play that he does.
Well, I think Oliver Luck had it right, and I think most of us that XFL fans can agree. Oliver Luck did a fantastic job, and, he's ex-quarterback and all that, and he had it right that you probably need to pay quarterbacks a little more money because in today's football, throwing the ball is, 70% of the game. It's not the old 3 yards in a cloud of dust like it was when we were growing up. So I do feel like if they're paying players, say 50, 60, 70,000 to start out, if they could find some pretty good arms and maybe be willing to pay double that, I think the XFL overall did a good job of it, and I think the USFL has got some pretty good arms going right now. But that's the key to these spring leagues, in my opinion, is, maybe like you said, name recognition, but also being able to sling that ball around. And you start showing those highlights, some of the highlights the USFL's had, and it's bringing in new viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I read their comments,
Yeah. I mean, like, what's his name? Scott from your Frankie's team.
Yeah.
The Girls. Dude leads
How long is he out for?
Is he out?
Yeah, for the Stars. Didn't he get hurt this weekend?
Well, I think he was banged up. But, I mean, look, this kid's leading the league in the NFL or the passing and touchdowns, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they got some decent players. They're starting to build the stars. I think that I get where everybody is saying that, it doesn't look good that the fans aren't there. And Frankie, I get what you're saying because you're one of those OG USFL guys, right? I get what you're saying.
I think people's got to get over that. It's a hub. It's just being realistic. You could put that hub in San Antonio, St. Louis, Seattle. You could put it up Kaepernick's ass. You could put it anywhere. You're only going to have the home team where people show up for the most part. But now I'll tell you, when I was walking into Tampa, just hit the game-winning field goal Saturday, and I was walking into the stadium to the Stallions game, and there was a few hundred people leaving, and I'm like, whoa, your tickets are good for the second game. Don't go anywhere. And a lot of them were like, we came to see the Gamblers, or we came to see Tampa. And I'm like, hey, I ain't got no problem with that, as long as they're coming out. And, but that's a very slow process trying to build a fan base in a different city. That's just long-term, like Frankie said, like you said, that's not going to work long-term.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here with this show. Am I right, Frankie?
Yeah, it's a train wreck like tonight, but at least we have Paul Reeths.
Hold on. Stop.
Hold on. I'm saying a train wreck because we promised Mr. Roy Foster, and just so everybody can see.
Mr. Roy Foster had some issues.
And I don't know if anybody can see that. No, they can't because it's in white, but
it's because
he got he read it. I don't know if he's having issues. I called him.
Look, I'll say this. You're in Guatemala, Frankie. I mean, you got your Wish microphone there. You got.
It's an expensive microphone.
It looks more like something that's from Wish. I mean, it looks.
No, it's not.
Cigarettes that he's smoking.
No, it's not. It's a real mic. It works. You know why I got this mic this week? Because last week when I had my meltdown, I was using my headset mic and I couldn't hear myself when I saw the replay.
I don't want to get you upset. I don't want you to have another meltdown again.
I'm okay. I listen.
He broke his mic.
I love you guys.
Broke his mic, Bert. He broke it.
It was a complete meltdown. That's all I have to say. But tonight we do have to apologize because Mr. Foster is having issues.
Getting back on.
What's going on? But it's part of a live show. We did have
right. Look, right here, Chris. Right here, Chris. You're absolutely right. Fake mic. It is a fake mic.
You wrote that yourself.
How did I?
Fake news. Fake news. You're doing it again.
Respect you. See, Bert. I told you that tagline you gave us, where the fake news of spring football is stuck. Yeah, Frankie. Everything about Frankie is. You're right, Chris. Everything about Frankie is a faker.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? This is a real show.
Look at that, Bert. Look at that cheap haircut he's got. Looks like he got it from a $2 hooker there in Guatemala.
Y'all were putting me in a position where I got to defend Frankie. What's going on?
It was just a bad day. I went in, got a haircut, and this guy just mowed me down. So it just
like happened. That Charles Barkley commercial. He broke out them clippers, and it was too late, huh?
Yes, it was. That's what happened.
So let's get into it. We have, two USFL guys. We have the old guard of USFL. We have the new guard of USFL. So we know that there's the 3-year plan, right? We know that they're talking about planning on moving to different cities, right?
Right.
So as we see, they're supporting Birmingham. Birmingham is supporting the Stallions tremendously, right? We see that. What would be, yes, you're right, $2 hooker haircuts, Chris. That's what Frankie got. A $2 hooker haircut.
Well,
that's what.
Listen, Max Headroom. I wouldn't be talking.
Oh shit! Now we're getting ready to lose.
Frankie, did you get a happy ending?
No.
No, he's just making that up, man. He's just making that up.
So
I got a bad haircut. That's all it was.
So let's ask it. So we're going to move the cities, and let's say that the USFL says, "Hey, we're not ready to move all 8 teams yet, right? But we're going to add 2 more hub cities. Where would the other extra 2 hub cities you guys would like to see?" And we'll start
Houston and Detroit for me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
somewhere in the north. Anywhere in the north.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So do we want to do our picks then, Frankie? Because we've been going for an hour and a half.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up because Mr. Foster is...
It's okay. We'll get it back, Frankie. Relax.
Hey,
Look,
listen, I spent a whole week putting these highlights together.
You know,
at least a couple of highlights.
Here's what I'm happy about, Frankie. You and Bert kissed and made up.
I have nothing against Bert. Bert's a good guy. He's just passionate like I am. We just got to control our passion.
Yeah, we made up.
I remember all that mean stuff. I don't know where you were getting all of that stuff.
Oh, come on.
You're sending them through Messenger.
Right.
Oh, I'm getting old.
All right, so here we go. We have Friday night, May 6th, the Stars versus the Panthers. Let's go with Bert first. Who do you have?
I've got the Stars. As long as Scott's playing and Fisher's coaching, I'll take the Stars. Excuse me.
Okay.
We're in agreement because Jeff Fisher's the worst coach in the history of pro football. And
I don't
he's
know.
an embarrassment to spring football. So, yes, Stars.
Okay, then, if that's the case, Frankie, then you have to take the Pittsburgh Maulers against
Why?
Because if you say Jeff Fisher, that means you have faith in Kirby Wilson and chicken salad.
I like chicken salad.
Well, he'll cut you if you don't. He'll cut you if you don't like chicken.
So who is Pittsburgh playing?
The Generals.
Oh, damn. I have to go with the Generals because I like the Generals.
All right, so for me, I'm going with the Stars. I'm definitely going with the Stars. I definitely like Scott, and if Scott is playing, I have a feeling that the Stars will definitely win that game. Chris is going with the Panthers, okay. Generals, so Frankie's going with the Generals. Bert, who do you have? I already know. I shouldn't even ask you. You're going to go with the Generals, right?
Generals. I think Kirby should offer a pizza party if they win the game, but I still don't think it would matter. General,
A pizza party. That is the greatest. That's the greatest right now.
Ever since he invoked that chicken salad rule, they haven't won a game. Maybe they should
It's
go back
true.
to the pizza.
Right? All right, now here we go. See, I get screwed again.
only in spring football.
Right, I get screwed again. I get screwed again by Tampa because they're playing Birmingham. So I already said Tampa's going to win everything, right? But, oh, shit. Bert, you're going with the Stallions, I'm guessing, against the Bandits?
We're going to run all over that ass.
All right, Frankie?
I like the way they played last week, the Bandits. I got nothing personal. I just think that this will be the first loss for the Stallions because the Bandits did play well last week.
I will say this about the Birmingham Stallions. They probably have the best defense in the USFL. I like Jamar Smith. He's really starting to show his improvements. I mean, the way that they played last week against New Orleans, which had a phenomenal offense, I'd have to say the Stallions. I'll have to on that one.
Okay.
It'll be another really good game. I think it'll go down to the wire. You know?
It could. Oh, Chris is going the Bandits 15, Stallions 28. So here it is, the last game. I think we can all pretty much agree on this one. The Gamblers versus the New Orleans Breakers.
The Breakers are going to break them.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm going with the Breakers.
Campbell's quarterback sucks. I'm sorry. He's horrible.
Yeah, he's not very good.
No, he overthrows everything.
I still can't figure out how Houston blew that game against Tampa this weekend.
I can't either. Now, let me ask you guys this question. You guys ready? Let me see what you guys think, because you guys are both huge football fans and watch a lot of football. Have you ever, in your entire life of watching football, seen what the New Jersey Generals is doing with running out two quarterbacks out there?
No.
Not
I've seen
for
it in
this.
college football, but on the pros.
Right, yeah. Bert?
Yeah, you know what they say typically, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Right, exactly.
But if it's working for them, hey, more power to
Yeah.
them.
They're 2-1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Pro Football Alliance Show. I am your
I
host.
want to show a highlight before we go.
Go, hurry up and show the goddamn highlight with your $2 hooker.
This is Usfl on the kickoff. Just relax.
We're going to try to get Mr.
Fulton Walker, the deep man for Miami. He had a 42-yard kickoff return the last time. From the 2. 20, he's in the open again. 30, 40, he's going to go all the way for a touchdown. 98 yards, Fulton Walker. Here you see it again. He started left and then got a block and broke it right up the middle. There's the key block. Was thrown by 61, the All-American from University of Southern California, Roy Foster. And Walker, no one laid a hand on him.
And I wanted to show that highlight. Did you know the reason I wanted Foster to come on is because did you notice after the touchdown he stole the football?
Yeah, did see
And
that.
I just wanted to ask him about that. But
Without taking those two blocks, there wouldn't have been those two touchdowns.
exactly. But the guy was a great player, and I'm sorry, guys, we couldn't get him on. Whatever reason.
Well, we're going to get him on. Don't worry, we're going to get him on. I think he's just having some technical issues. You know, he's an older gentleman, Frankie. I mean, you know.
Be nice to the senior citizens. Don't be.
I mean, listen, you're 65. I'm surprised.
I'm 55. What are you talking about, you jerk?
At being 65, but hey, man, I'm proud of you, pal, for being able to work your computer at 65.
Oh man, I'm the kid of this panel. I enjoy this.
You are. You absolutely are. All right, Bert, tell people where they can find you and where your pages are.
It is XFL and USFL fans on Facebook. Then we've got the Birmingham Stallions fans they've also got, if you're an SEC fan, which is the only real football, college football, it's a real SEC fans group.
Oh, fuck, I forgot I got
And
two
that's it.
Alabama
That's
fans
the
on.
only place that's the only place I really want to be found.
Go Satan.
Oh, God.
Your
Nick,
idol.
Roll Tide,
Dirty.
baby. Oh,
Roll all
you
the
ever
way.
seen? Hey,
Tide.
Dirty. You ever seen him levitate when he does an interview? It's great.
38 draft picks from his team since 2008. Georgia has 38 draft picks in their whole history. Think about
And-
that. Swallow.
And Alabama will be winning their 19th national championship in a few months from now.
Well, I'll go to Alabama and celebrate with you.
tell people where they can
Let's
find
do
you
it.
at.
USFL Forever YouTube channel, USFL Forever Facebook page. Again, the USFL Forever YouTube channel is the original one. To avoid any copycats because they downloaded my stuff and stole it. Okay.
And Frankie, we got big news starting. Is it next week, right, Frankie?
Yes, next week.
Next week, we are doing the USFL Alumni / Legend Show next week on Monday. So you guys will be able to tune into that. We're going to be talking to old USFL players and hopefully get some of the new USFL players so they can kind of share their stories of the different ways of the way the new league is compared to the old league. So that should be something interesting to find out. So, Frankie, would you like to say who our first guests are?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, then. Well, for the Pro Football Alliance, I am Dirty. That's Frankie from Forever USFL, and that's Bert from the Birmingham Stallions, who both think that Nick Saban is a piece of trash. And
No.
we'll see you guys next week because
Greatest coach in the world.
Nick Saban, they think Nick Saban is an idiot.
Saban is a god. He levitates.
Hi. This is the Pro Football Alliance show. I will see you guys, right? Bert and Frankie both hate Nick Saban.